Looks like we are live on all platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Alrighty, so welcome to all those that are joining. My name is Keith Kraker. I am a registered dietitian. I'm also a co-founder here at Carbon. And we do these live streams to help our members, if they have questions about the app, their goals, that type of thing, as well as help new people understand what Carbon's all about. So we're here to answer any questions that you guys have about the app or about nutrition, about training, about your goals, etc. So whatever questions you do have, the way to ask them is if you're on Instagram, ask the question in the box, and then I can pull that up on the screen so that everybody else can see which question I'm answering. And then if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can put the question in the comments, and then that pulls that up on my screen. So we'll get started once we get a few questions in here. Looks like we're getting some people joining. Welcome, everybody. Hope everybody's great on this lovely Friday, wherever you are. Sorry if my voice sounds a little weird. I do have a cold, but we are going to push through it to do this live stream. So will the app understand if I'm underfeeding and not seeing progress? Will it adjust accordingly? Good question. So the app gives you target macros, and it is assuming you're eating those target macros. So if you are not eating those target macros, you would say that you are not compliant to the coach's recommendations that it's giving you. And so in that case, if you're saying non-compliant, the app isn't going to adjust your macros because you are outside of the range which we deem acceptable, and it's best to work on getting within the range. Now, if you are like under eating a lot, I think that is something that's very important to be priority number one, is focus on getting your calories up to where they need to be. And you may need to be non-compliant for a few weeks just so that you can build up the habit of eating more food. You may want to look at your food choices and what you're choosing to hit your macros with, because sometimes if you are choosing very filling foods, like super high in fiber, fruits, vegetables, and just like completely filling your diet with that only, it's going to be very hard to reach your target macros. So you want to have balance and have a good balance of fruits, vegetables, grains, those starches, those types of things to help reach your macro targets. There is plans in the future to potentially make adjustments based on how your body's responding, as long as you tell the app what you actually did eat. There's certain scenarios where we don't want to do that, but I do see benefit allowing some adjustments under certain circumstances, which is something we are considering adding in the future. We just need to figure out all the details of how we want to handle it. But right now, you need to be compliant if you want the coach to adjust your macros based on how your body is responding. Good question. Got a question on YouTube. I'll hop over there. What do you think of OMAD to lose weight? So OMAD stands for 1 meal a day, I believe. And it's my thoughts are it's just a eating strategy to help control the amount of calories that you consume. So if you find that eating once a day helps you stick to your requirements for whatever your goal is, then I think it's useful. For a lot of people, though, I think 1 meal a day is difficult to follow just because of how it's ingrained in our culture. You know, breakfast, lunch, dinner, 3 meals a day. It's hard to completely shift away from how most people are eating, especially if you are social with people and stuff. It's difficult to stick to just eating 1 meal a day. But like I said, it's just a strategy. If you find that it helps you stick to your calorie needs, then yeah, by all means go for it. But there's nothing magical about like losing more body fat, for example. It's not going to give you any more progress if you were to eat the same amount of calories but spread them out a little bit more and have more balance in your meals. But good question. And your name is OMAD Skippy Doo. So It sounds like you love one meal a day. So if that's for you, by all means, you can continue doing it. But yeah, there is some evidence that like spreading out your protein is pretty important too. So like eating all of your protein needs in a single meal, especially if your goal is to maximize muscle mass, for example, it's not really conducive to that if you're trying to optimize everything in terms of muscle mass. But for general weight loss, I think it can be fine. You're welcome. All right, let's jump over to Instagram, see what we got there. Okay, so is maintenance function, I'm assuming you mean like the maintenance goal in carbon, is it maintaining weight or maintaining calories? When do you know to go into maintenance after a gain phase? So maintain in the app, the goal is maintain weight. So with that goal, it is the objective of that goal to maintain your weight within a specific range. And so when you create that goal, it'll look at your current weight, and then it'll give you like a low end and a high end that's deemed acceptable. And then the app will adjust your calories accordingly to keep you within that range. And then if you do fall outside of that range, that's when you would receive an adjustment. But as long as you're within that range, you're not going to get an adjustment. And let's say you fall outside of that range, but you are trending back to where you need to be. There's scenarios where the coach doesn't necessarily make an adjustment because it's looking at that trend and where you're going to make it fall back within that specified range. And so that's how the maintenance or maintain weight goal in carbon works. And then the second part of your question, when do you know to go into maintenance after a gain phase? And so if you are in a gain phase and you're happy with the amount of weight you've gained and you want to maintain what your current body weight is, that's when you would switch to the maintain weight goal. If you have a goal of being lower than where you end your gain phase, then you're going to not want to go with the maintain weight goal. You'd want to go with weight loss, for example, to drop your weight to where you want to keep it and maintain it, and then switch to the maintain weight goal. So hopefully that helps. Good question. Let's see. So we got some more on YouTube, looks like. So it looks like the reverse diet option allows for 0.4 pound weight gain per week at the lowest. By the way, that is based on your current body weight, so that number is going to be different for everybody. But for your current body weight, that's the lowest because it's based on a percentage of your current body weight. If I wanted to do a slow and long reverse diet and only adding in 50 calories a week, how would I do this? So if you already know how many calories you want to add each week, you could just do that yourself. But with carbon, it's a little more smart in making the adjustment, seeing what happens with your body, holding your macros when it appears like you need to hold your macros where they are, or increasing them if your body's responding well, or increasing them more than normal if your body's responding well. So there are many scenarios with carbon on the reverse diet setting than just like 50 every week and just constantly doing that. If you want to add 50 every week to get to a certain calorie amount, you can certainly do that. But with carbon, if you want to go slow, take the slider all the way, which is the lowest for you. Now that number is going to be a max allowable amount of weight gain. It's not necessarily how much you're going to gain each week. Think of it as like a cap. And once you kind of go past that, carbon is like, I need to do something different. We need to hold your macros, for example. It's a max allowable amount that we would deem as acceptable each week. So technically you could gain like 0.39 pounds every single week and it'll keep bringing you up, but practically that's not going to happen. There'll be some weeks where you maybe gain too much. There'll be some weeks where you don't gain at all and you lose weight. Your body does some weird things when you're increasing calories in a slow and controlled manner. Like your metabolism may speed up here and there. So it's not a linear process. So you can't just add 50 every week and call it good. But yeah, I recommend, I typically go as slow as possible on the reverse as well. I enjoy taking it all the way down to the lowest max allowable weight gain and then just riding it out until I feel like changing my goal. That's like a long-term setting for me that I typically use if I want to slowly build muscle over time, for example, because you're going to be in a slight calorie surplus and the app isn't going to be forcing you to gain a certain amount of weight each week like it would on the weight gain setting. So like with weight gain, it's going to force you every week to gain a certain amount, which is not what I typically want as a more advanced lifter. I want it to, if I gain a little weight, that's okay, but my goal is to be in a slight surplus and get stronger in the gym, make progress on that front to kind of provide the environment for muscle building. So, but that was kind of the tangent to your question, but I believe I answered all of your points there. Thanks for the question. All right, let's see what we got on Insta. Justin Gaines put my question in the open chat. I didn't see it, I don't think. Let's see. Okay, so not app related, but if I eat more than the app recommends on one day, should I eat less on the next day to compensate or just keep going next day as the app recommends? So if you eat, so with carbon, the macro targets that you get are going to be your average weekly macro recommendations. So as long as you're eating those on average, by the end of the week, you're going to be fine. So there may be some days where you're lower than that, some days where you're higher. But as long as the average works out to where it needs to be for your macro targets by the end of the week, you're completely fine. And I don't know if you saw it, but we have a calorie planner feature that kind of automates this process for you and makes it super easy to adjust your daily macro targets to stay on track with your weekly average. So it's just a slider that you can slide up and down and it'll adjust each day. And so that's a really useful tool to use if you find yourself eating like a diet that's different on each day. I personally eat mostly the same thing each day for like, I don't know, a month or two at a time until I get sick of it and then I switch it up. But I like to just tend to eat my average every single day, but that's not some people. Some people like to have variable calories and do calorie cycling, for example. So that feature can help you do that. But yeah, if you were to eat more than the app recommends in a single day, and then just go back to eating the target macros, you're going to be over in your weekly average, and that's going to potentially not make you make any progress because you're going to be eating more calories than your body needs for whatever goal you had set. So I would certainly account for the extra calories, whether that's the next day just eating whatever you overate on that one day, taking that away the next day, or you could even divide it out from all the remaining days of the week. So if you overate like 50 calories and you got 5 days left, for example, you could take 10 calories from each day. You probably wouldn't need to do that with 50 calories, but that was just an easy example is, yeah, you can choose how you want to budget it, for example. So hopefully that helps you. Thanks for the question. Good evening, Erwin. Give my greetings to your family and Lane and family. Thank you very much. Good evening to you. It's afternoon here where I am, but good evening. All right, let's see. And looks like you might have a question. Okay, so I'm now this week over my targets. Only fat is within range. Calories are over 60, and protein is also over with 2 grams over range. What happens if you say you're compliant? Does the app calculate with the range values or with the actual values? Does it recalculate on weight gained or lost with actual values or range? So I think I answered this a little bit earlier. Of the app is assuming you ate within the acceptable range of your macro targets. So it's going to calculate based on that and adjust based on the difference it believes you need to eat to get your progress in line with where it needs to be. With that said, if you're consistently eating a certain amount away from the target, for example, it's not going to make any difference, because the delta, the change in the adjustments, is what makes the progress happen, and it fine tunes the progress. And so if you are consistently eating 100 calories under what the range specified is acceptable, but you're consistently doing that every single week and checking in, the app will think you're eating 100 calories more, but you're eating 100 calories less. But it's not going to matter, because it's going to adjust. It's going to adjust to give you the progress that you need. And it's like there's many rounding errors in food labels and all these things. You can't perfectly eat exactly what you think you are. So it's just a close approximation of what's most important. And then consistency, consistently doing the same thing week after week after week is what is going to help you make the most progress. So good question there. And you asked about what you actually tracked in the diary. I also mentioned a little bit about that, of like, in the future, we want to, under certain circumstances, potentially look at what you tracked and then verify it with you. And then in some cases, make an adjustment or not make an adjustment, instead of saying you have to eat these certain macros and say compliant or non-compliant. There's a lot that goes into that. Every decision we make as an app is like, we want to make sure that the app is providing you with the best outcome possible. And as coaches, a registered dietitian, Lane with a PhD, like, we have a background in this and the practical experience as well with coaching. And we typically know what is best for the user. So we try to like make that the happy path in the app, and try to nudge people into what is going to be the best for them in terms of progress. But there is room for nuance in that stuff, and that's why we're considering adding some more features around allowing, looking at the diary, for example. Those are things that we're talking about, certainly, on the feature side of things. The app is excellent for those that are just getting going. Thank you so much. Let's see. If I want to do hey Bailey, how's it going? If I want to do an 8 to 12 week quick cut, or a mini cut, for those that go by that terminology, how can I set that up in the app? That's a great question. It's basically just going faster on the slider. So when you create the weight loss goal, you just go faster, and you're allowed to, like, when you go faster, you'll notice that there's like a warning of increased lean mass. That's really only if you're on that speed for an extended period of time. 8 to 12 weeks is more than like a mini cut range. So maybe I would do break that in half maybe, and do like two kind of more like fat loss sprints or something, where you kind of have a week or two of maintenance in between to help kind of recover a little bit, and then jump back into a more quicker weight loss. But yeah, just take the slider higher. So the shorter you go, the more extreme you can go. You can take it as fast as possible on the slider. If it's, a 3 to 4 week, for example, cut. I've certainly done that in the past as well. So yeah, it works just the same as any other goal. It's just the speed is really the thing at which you're gonna go on a mini cut. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, I'd do 4 weeks, and then maybe a week or two at maintenance, and then another 4 weeks. I think that's going to be the best approach, to where you can mentally stay in it. 4 weeks of mini cut, yeah, it's going to be a struggle, but it's not at the point where like you're going to be completely drained and dead. So I would do 4 weeks, then a week or two of maintenance to kind of recharge a little bit, and then another four week push. And then you could always adjust from there if you find that you maybe want to extend the weight loss phase a little bit more, or the maintenance phase more, for example. But yeah, that's how I would approach it. Justin, let's see. I'll try to scroll and find what you're talking about, but excuse me. Oh, science behind rep ranges. Is it true that 1 to 5 is focused on strength building, 6 to 12 is muscle building, and 20 reps is muscle endurance? As a general, like, there's some truth to that, but it's not like a black and white thing. It's kind of like a spectrum. So like the 1 to 5 rep range is typically best at maximizing strength building because you're training closer to your 1 rep max during the sets. And so that is going to help you build more strength, because the closer you train to your 1 rep max, the more skill you're practicing on the lifts, as well as you're activating more motor units. So like that's going to help build more strength. And 6 to 12 is kind of like, you know, in between the strength and endurance. It's like, oh, this is the muscle building sweet spot. That's just because you're likely going to maximize your training volume while still staying closer to your 1 rep max. It's not like you're super far away from your 1 rep max. And it's just going to be a nice balance of kind of all the worlds. And then 20 or more, for example, is going to work more endurance just because you're training with a lower percentage of your 1 rep max. But all of those can build strength. All of those can build muscle. It's just, how does it fit into the overall plan and periodization of your training program? And are you doing enough total work? Are you training close enough to your 1 rep max on average throughout the whole week? That's the most important thing to consider. And so I think they all have their benefits at certain times of your training. And so I like to train in a variety of rep ranges. I typically don't do 1 rep max stuff just because that's more of like a testing thing. It's not really going to be building too much if you're doing just 1 rep all the time. It will help with skill development of training for doing a single rep, but I don't need that specificity in my training because I'm not a power lifter trying to do a 1 rep max. And so I like to have a variety of rep ranges, anywhere from, I typically don't go lower than 4 most of the time, just because the chance of injury might be a little bit more training closer to your 1 rep max, especially if you do it like very frequently. So I like to do like 4 reps, anywhere to 20 reps is like where the majority of my work is. And then inside of that, I would say like the majority of my work is in like that 6 to 12 rep range. I find that that's a nice balance overall to my goals of getting stronger, but with a primary focus on building muscle. So hopefully that helps, Justin. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions on that. Let's see. You are welcome, Yuri. He said, and then Erwin, yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for the elaborate answer. You're welcome. I love the app and using it about a long time and love it. My wife uses it as well. Still struggling to be consistent, but do manage now to have a stake since August. Glad to hear that it's helpful for both you and your wife. Yeah, it's something that is like eye-opening for people when they start using the app. Just like what they're taking in, and it can be a big change in terms of lifestyle, especially if you've never tracked your diet before. So don't feel discouraged if you're not on it consistently all the time or perfect with things. It's just, if you look at this as like, hey, this is a long-term strategy I'm using to reach whatever goal that I have. I may have a bad week or two here and there, but you know, if the majority of your time spent using it is productive and you're consistent, and you're going to get the results that you're after. It's just people that quit too quickly and can't stick it out and can't be consistent. That's where people will drop off and not see the progress that they want. But with Carbon, we try to preach consistency. Consistency is the most important thing. So focusing on that is huge. Thank you again for using the app. Appreciate it. Let me know if you have any other questions. Okay, let's see. I feel like I didn't eat poorly. Usually eat home-cooked healthy meals, relatively active, and a male under 30. Is it normal to see this? I'm not obese, but definitely struggle to maintain and look in shape. It can be, like I mentioned, it can be eye-opening when you actually do track everything that you're consuming. The drinks, all the little licks and bites here and there of things, the snacking, like it can really, really add up, especially if you have some higher calorie food choices that you're just more mindlessly eating. It is definitely mind-opening, but a lot of people are in the same boat as you, where generally they eat healthy foods, but they aren't sure how many calories they're consuming. When they actually sit down and track it all, it is eye-opening. So I would recommend just tracking for a while and seeing what you're actually consuming in terms of calories, and then seeing what your body needs to make the progress that you want. And then that'll give you a better understanding of what it would take to get the body that you want to look in shape and to be able to maintain that. And it's a process over time to where you may need to be uncomfortable for a little bit to get to the body you want. But then once you get there, to maintain it is so much easier, especially since you built up all the habits of getting there in the first place. It's going to be so much easier to maintain that once you do reach it. And then also maintaining a certain weight is a lot easier than getting your body to lose the weight. So it will be easier over time. I would just try to get to the body and look that you want with Carbon, and then go to maintenance or reverse diet, and then kind of seeing how your body responds from there. But yeah, give it a try. And just like I mentioned earlier, like consistency, try to be as consistent as possible with your tracking and tracking everything that you're consuming, just so you know all the inputs and all the outputs and in terms of your diet, and then that'll help you make an informed decision. All right, should I select maintenance instead of weight loss in the app if I'm attempting to add muscle and lose fat simultaneously? Everybody wants to lose muscle and build fat, everybody wants to lose fat and build muscle at the same time, because that's the best of all the worlds. You are going to make the most progress if you're at the same time losing fat and building muscle. You're going to be maintaining more of your weight. Now, in practice, that's something that's very hard to do, especially for an extended period of time. There may be shorter sprints of where you're able to do that, and certain scenarios where if you're more of a beginner, it's going to be easier to build muscle and lose fat at the same time. But if you are outside of the newbie phase of like your first year of consistent weight training, it's going to be very hard to do that. And I've seen so many people spin their wheels because that's their goal, is losing fat and building muscle at the same time. To whereas if they were to break it apart, have a phase of, okay, I'm going to lose body fat and get to a body fat level that I'm comfortable with, and then I'm going to slowly increase my weight while training very hard to try to build muscle, you're going to be much more successful if you break those phases apart, because then you can focus on the goal at hand and optimize all the variables towards the outcome that you want. And so I wouldn't try to do them at the same time. But if you are in a unique situation where you can build muscle and lose fat at the same time, the maintain weight goal would be probably the best one for that, or the reverse diet goal with as slow as possible max allowable weight gain. That would be my recommendation. But my first recommendation is break them apart, have distinct phases, and focus on the outcome that you want. Can you discuss reverse dieting? Should I choose that plan or maintenance once I reach my weight loss goal? So it all depends on how long you've been in a deficit and trying to lose weight. The longer you have been doing that and eating fewer calories than your body needs, the longer it might take to kind of recover your metabolism back to a healthy level for your current body weight. And so if you've been trying to lose weight for a while and you've been eating in a deficit and you've been losing weight, you do likely want to reverse diet. A good rule of thumb is like for how long you've been in a deficit, you probably want to reverse diet for about the same amount of weeks. Now it can be more or less depending on what your ultimate goal is, but I think that's a good rule of thumb to go with is how many weeks have you been dieting? Do the same amount in a reverse. Now there are scenarios where you could just go from weight loss right to maintain weight. I would say if your metabolism is in a healthy place after your diet still. So if you didn't do a fast diet, it was more of a shorter diet. Those are scenarios where you could just likely go to maintain weight and be totally fine. And so, yeah, if you need help discussing your specific case, our support team is always there to answer any questions you have. You can fill them in on all the details of what you're trying to achieve and your history with carbon or dieting and whatnot, and they can help give a more specific recommendation for you. So that would be something I would recommend utilizing as well with your membership is access to our support team. You can reach them through the app. There's a place in settings to message them, or you can just email directly support@joincarbon.com, and they can help you through that too. Good questions. Can you use the app when breastfeeding? We don't recommend it just because there's so many unique scenarios during pregnancy that it's best to not have carbon manage your diet during that time. So that's our recommendation there. Any thoughts on DEXA scan? Are they accurate? Is it worth to track body composition changes? So all methods of body fat testing are just estimations. The only way to sorry, excuse me. The only way to know for sure your body fat percentage is to physically cut out your body fat tissue and take it out and put it on a table and weigh it. All of these methods are just estimations of what is going to be the most accurate. So some of them are more accurate in certain populations of people. DEXA has been one of the ones considered as gold standard, but in certain populations, it can be inaccurate. But on average, I would say it's accurate enough to track your body fat percentage over time. You can't, I mean, you could do them regularly, but I would probably leave a little bit of break in between your DEXA scans, a couple months or something like that. But you can use it as a tool to track your body fat percentage over time, as well as your muscle mass, and see if you're moving in the right direction. Don't put too much stock in the specific number that it spits out, but it's more the trend and change over time that's going to be most important. And if you want a method that you can use more regularly, you can get like a body weight scale that tests your body fat percentage and just do that every single day. That's going to be less accurate, but it's going to be a method that you can do it way more. And so you can also track the trend and the change in your body fat and body composition over time using one of the body weight scales with BIA testing in it. So yeah, many methods to do it. I would say just if you want to do it regularly, pick a method, be consistent with it. That'll help give you some useful data in terms of where you're going and the progress that you're making. And with carbon, we do look at body fat percentage when you check in. So if you are, if you're consistently tracking your body fat percentage and entering it into the app, or it's getting pulled in from Apple Health or whatever, then the coach will use that information as well in consideration when making its adjustments. You don't want to change the methods though. So I see some people like, oh, I did a DEXA scan and I entered it, and then I do the body weight scale every day and I enter it. Like those methods are going to be incompatible in terms of the results that they spit out. And so you're going to have it look like it's kind of all over the place. It's very important to be consistent, just like with your diet. If you're going to track body fat percentage, be consistent with the method that you do it, the time of day, the conditions you're taking it under, like all of those things play a factor in how accurate that number is going to be and how precise as well. So hopefully that helps. Welcome to the new people that are joining. Ryan looks like he's got a question here on YouTube. Let's see. I think it would be nice to have an option to use track calories in the diary. A couple times I wasn't compliant, but still made progress. So I think that would be helpful for figuring out maintenance. Absolutely, Ryan, I agree with you. And that's the scenario that we would find it to be very useful to look at what the user has actually tracked. I think we would still have to confirm if the diary is complete, just because we don't want to assume that everything has been tracked. But if the diary's been completed, everything's been tracked, and then we can definitely use that to figure out where your maintenance was that week, because we knew what you ate and we knew what happened to your weight. We can even make an adjustment if you're like way outside of where we think you need to be. So that's the scenario that we are discussing for sure, Ryan. So thank you for suggesting that as well. And you love the app though. Thanks for making it the best. Thank you for being a user. Appreciate you. All right, let's see. Any other questions you guys have? Like I said, it could be about carbon. It could be about general nutrition. It could be about training. Anything that will help you reach your goals better. That's why we're here, to answer these questions every month. So this is your time to pick our brains. And if you're just joining in, I am a registered dietitian. So you can ask some nutrition questions, but I can't give you any dietetic type stuff, but I definitely do have deep knowledge in nutrition and helping people reach their goals. So please ask away. I'll drink some water while I wait. Let's see. Maybe there's some here. Let's see on Instagram. Appreciate everybody tuning in, by the way. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Friday, wherever you are. Lots of joiners on Instagram. Let's see if there's a question I missed here. What's your guidance on tapering calories back up after a hard 8-week cut? Went from 180 carbs to 100. So it sounds like you're talking about potentially taking your calories slowly from your hard cut calories to maintenance. We don't see much of a benefit prolonging yourself being in a deficit. Like if your goal is to lose weight more quickly and do a harder cut, like you want to get in and get out. You don't want to linger in that deficit. So you would want to do your cut calories, your harder cut calories, wherever they are, and then instantly bring them up to your estimated maintenance calories. Now that is going to probably be lower than what they were when you started your cut. And that's where there's a lot of confusion and misconception around the reverse diet setting. People think that we should reverse from their deficit calories back up to what their old maintenance was, and then push from there. But there's really not much benefit in that. The goal on the reverse is to optimize your metabolism. So we want to get you out of that deficit as quickly as possible. And by definition, you're not going to be gaining body fat if we're taking you to your newly estimated maintenance, the new calories it takes to maintain your current weight. You may have slight fluid adjustments in terms of retaining a little bit more water, maybe because maybe you're eating more sodium, or even just having more carbs in general is going to help your muscles retain a little bit more water. But that's not going to be body fat gain, and then it's gonna even itself out and kind of go away anyway. And so going from estimated, you want to go to your estimated maintenance, and like I said, it's a moving target. So it's not like we can slowly bring you out of the deficit, and that's not what we recommend, by the way. So hopefully that makes sense. I know the answer, but are you still considering a food database in Europe, Netherlands, so that I can scan barcodes? It's really hard with the food databases just because each region, if you're outside of like US, Canada, Australia, UK, each region is a whole nother database that we need to license and maintain and do all that stuff. It's difficult to do new areas. So we are working on a better way to track in those countries, a label scanner, for example, where it will look at your label that you put in front of the camera, and it'll parse it and get all the nutrition information from it. That's something that we're working on, and hope to release a feature like that in the future. We're kind of in the initial testing stages of doing something like that, which would help tremendously for people outside of the US. It'll make it easier to track. And so that's something we're working on. No release date or anything I can give you. We're like I said, we're in the initial testing stages of implementing something like that, but that's something we're working on. Hopefully that's exciting, Erwin. All right, what kind of strength training is best for aiding fat loss, hypertrophy versus strength, or question mark? So your weight training, I would try to completely separate your weight training from weight loss. It's good to not think of your weight training to optimize weight loss, because then you're not going to be optimizing muscle building, which is going to help with long-term progress. So it's best to focus on strength training and weight training for the goal of maximizing muscle mass and maintaining muscle mass, and let the diet and cardio side of things take care of fat loss and creating that deficit to help facilitate fat loss. But in general, you're going to want probably to do a mix of hypertrophy and strength training. It's good to kind of do a mixture of both if your goal is just general fat loss, just because strength training and hypertrophy training done together is going to probably provide your best bang for your buck for maximizing muscle mass and maintaining it when you're trying to lose weight in a calorie deficit. So use your diet and cardio for creating that deficit. That's what I would recommend. And don't change your training to try to get more fat loss. I've seen people do like, okay, I'm going to do a ton of high rep stuff because it burns more calories. And that's going to help me make more fat loss. You might burn more calories in the short term, but long term, you're going to have the detriment of losing muscle mass because you're not pushing your body hard enough, training close enough to your 1 rep max. So yeah, focus on separating those two things and doing the diet and cardio for fat loss. And with carbon, for example, with carbon, you're going to do your macros, you're going to follow the macros that's giving you, and then whatever cardio that you're doing, carbon makes up the difference in what you need to do for your macros. So you can kind of just choose, okay, I want to do X amount of cardio to reach this goal, and then carbon will find what you need to eat in terms of macros to offset that and make up the difference to make the calorie deficit that you need. So that's a little bit how that works with carbon, but appreciate the question. And looks like we have time for one more question. Again, I appreciate everybody tuning in. We do these regularly, once a month, typically. So be sure to tune in. This is our open office hours for you guys. Let's see. Minimizing muscle loss during a weight loss goal. Thoughts on that, and what plant-based diet? Okay, so a plant-based diet is probably going to be not optimal for muscle mass, just because of the lack of higher quality protein sources. Typically, animal sources of protein are going to be higher quality in terms of their amino acid profiles for muscle building and muscle maintenance. So the more, whatever optimizes muscle building is going to likely make you maintain muscle the best as well. So having animal proteins in your diet, eating enough protein, those types of things, weight training hard is going to be important for minimizing muscle loss during a weight gain phase. And then not going too aggressive on a weight loss phase in terms of calories for an extended period of time. Being more moderate with your deficit, all important things to help maximize muscle or minimize muscle loss during a weight loss goal. So thank you for the question. Again, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Carbon Diet Coach, if you haven't tried it, I recommend you give it a try. Super successful. We've had so many success stories using the app and our approach to macros and adjusting your macros every week. You can download it in iOS App Store, Google Play Store. Super cheap to subscribe, just $9.99 a month, and you can get a little discount if you purchase more time up front. So if you purchase 6 months or a year, you get a nice little discount there. So I would appreciate it if you do love the app, give us a review in the app stores. That helps us a ton. If you haven't checked it out, do check it out. It is a paid app, but very well worth it. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and we'll see you at the next one.